afternoon. Good afternoon and happy Sabbath, Covenant Advent Church. And good afternoon and happy Sabbath to those of you who've joined us online. Welcome back for our evening study. Thank you for joining, and I pray you'll be richly blessed as we continue with part 2 from Head and Tail. So we will start with hymn number 537. Please turn in your hymnals to hymn number 537. He leadeth me, O blessed thought, O words with heavenly comfort fraught. Whate'er I do, where'er I be, still 'tis God's hand that leadeth me. He leadeth me, He leadeth me by His own hand. He leadeth me, His faithful follower I would be, for by His hand He leadeth me. Sometimes mid scenes of deepest gloom, sometimes where Eden's bowers bloom, by water still or troubled sea, still 'tis His hand that leadeth me. He leadeth me, He leadeth me by His own hand. He leadeth me, His faithful follower I would be, for by His hand He leadeth me. I would clasp my hand in thine, nor ever murmur, nor repine, content whatever lot I see, since 'tis my God that leadeth me. He leadeth me, He leadeth me by His own hand. He leadeth me, His faithful follower I would be, for by His hand He leadeth me. And when my task on earth is done, when by Thy grace the victory's won, in death's cold wave I will not flee, since God through Jordan leadeth me. He leadeth me, He leadeth me by His own hand. He leadeth me, His faithful follower I would be, for by His hand He leadeth me. Amen. I'll now turn it over to Pastor Lloyd Grappa.
Thank you. He leadeth me. So good afternoon again, everyone that's here. And good afternoon to Sister Velva for joining us online. Good to see you. And I hope you're having a blessed Sabbath day. Hope you're having a blessed Sabbath day. Here. So we're continuing where we left off this afternoon, earlier this afternoon, which is be the lender, giver, and investor. And this is part 2. We will pray. Our Father, who art in heaven, I thank you for the blessings of your word in this day. Pray, Lord, you may be with us as we study, and may you bless our minds that we might truly live towards the words that you say for Christ's sake. Amen. So, be the lender, giver, investor, part 2. And so I will not try to recap what I did earlier. I will just move on to cover the material I have here. We start off with Ecclesiastes 9, verse 10 and 11. Ecclesiastes 9, verse 10 and 11. So we looked at the word diligent earlier, and we have a particular process that we're working on, and is to, as I say, live life as the head, not the tail, and to not live in life where we're being dumped on. And so Ecclesiastes 9, verse 10 and 11 says, "Whatsoever thy hands find to do, do it with thy might. For there is no work, nor device, nor knowledge, nor wisdom in the grave whither thou goest." So it's important to note that this text might not introduce the concept of diligent, but introduce the concept of might. So when you say you're doing something with your might, you're doing something with all that you have, all that you can put forward while you're here. And so you go at life as much, with much gusto, much strength to be able to execute your work. And whatever your hands find to do, it doesn't matter if your job you're doing per se. You know, you can always talk about changing careers, changing jobs. But that whatever you do it with all your might. You do it so hard that even if you cramp up at night and you're having pain as you lay in your bed, but at least you know you're putting in the hard effort that you need to put in, right? Because you want to be able to, whatever your hands find to do. In full-time job or in retirement, you do it with all your might. Because this is all that we have. We don't know what tomorrow brings. We don't know what we have today. So this text, I attribute this text because it says, whatever you have to find do, you do it with thy might. With thy might. So this might here is why I say you go at life as hard as you can. But notice here, it teaches something that's very interesting, and it's been the truth for life. I returned and saw under the sun that the race is not for the swift. Now, is the race for the swift? Some people will contradict and say, Lord, what are you talking about? The race is for the swift, right? But the race is not for the swift. But somebody says the fastest people are in the race, right? It's not for the swift, right? So if it's a race not for the swift, who's the race for? Well, it says the battle is not for the strong, but I thought it's the people who are strongest win the battle. Nor bread or food for the wise. So I thought the wisest people is the one that will get the bread, right? And it says, nor riches to men of understanding. I thought people who are some of the richest people are the one that, the men of understanding are the one that's going to get rich. Nor favor to men of skill. But time and chance happen to them all. So you're going to have, in your personal life, you're going to have chances. You're going to have time. Stuff is going to happen, and time and chance happen tomorrow. Oh, tomorrow, turn on the board if you don't mind. Or no, it's right here. No. So it's the screen. You know to turn on the screen? Okay. So, yes, thanks. So time and chance happen to them all, right? So this is how, so what does that mean to you? How do you confuse this, how do you understand this text? And we've talked about this before, but how do you make sense of this text? Because here it says that in verse 10, it says, do it with all your might. You know what's going to happen. And he returned and he see that all of these things, these people not necessarily get it. Now, how I look at it is this, right? And what do you think about this? This is how I look at it. I return and saw in the sun that the race is not for the swift. Can you have a person that's quicker than a person that's swift? And I learned this really young. And they still win and become top of the game, and they're not the fastest person. But they can become a top athlete, and they're not the fastest person. There are people faster than them. Can you have a person that's strong and yet can't win battles? As a matter of fact, the shock and awe is the only way to win battles. You got that? What did the history show us? When I was young, they told me shock and awe. And then I realized the Bible is right. All the might, all the power, superior power, and people with AK-47 can win a battle against. You say, how is that possible? Nor riches, for men of understanding. I thought the person who have the best understanding would be able to have all the riches. Now, favor to skill. Can a person have skill and still can't get favor? And a person can be broke, have no skill, and get favor. Can this be happen? So what's happening? I tell you, is this thing here. Over my life, I've realized is this. It's with thy might. That's the real key right there. I'll tell you why. So when we talk about be the lender, giver, or whatever, it's a slow race. When I was young, they taught me this thing that time is longer than rope. And is time longer than rope? All right? So give yourself what? Time. Because there's a lot of time you look at it and it says, you can see, how many companies in the last 25 years that were too big to fail, that failed? How many billionaires came to zero? Because time is what? Longer than rope. We are going at life with a different set of principles, and some of the principles I'm going to cover in the next few minutes. And because we're going at life with different set of principles, we're not going at life fast and rush and hurry, and we're methodical about what we're doing, and we're going at it in a very methodical way. And what these years have shown me is that you have to be able to understand that when you do life in this way, where you watch the swift, you got to give them their run. They're going to run out of energy because they're going too fast. What they say, a bird that flies too fast does what? Miss the nest. Right? The bird that flies too fast because they're going too fast. Right? They're too in haste. They're not trying to think through it. So I've learned in life is that say, okay, I have to go at it different. And number one of the things I have to do is give myself more time. How do I give myself time? There's a lot of ways that I give myself not wasting time, being more focused on my process and more focused on what is going to give me value. Because I need to buy myself time. And how you buy yourself time? A book can buy you time. Is that true? Person do 300 and something page. There's these ones that are epistles or whatever, but I'm talking about the 300 and something page book. The person study and now they reach probably 50, 40, 50, 60, 70 and they write a book. They're pouring into that book probably 50 years of life. You read that book, you're gaining time. Because you're gaining time to be able to not have to go through all the lessons that person go through. Just distill it down for me in 300 pages. I'll take that 300 pages, I read it, I gain time. The health give me time. Because what health give me real clock time. I don't mean theoretical time, I mean real clock time. Because what it is that says, this is one of the most profound things that happened to me. I said it to you before and I say it again. When I was probably 14, 15, 16, I was talking to a friend of my brother. And he was telling me that if I could go back, and he told me a whole bunch of bad stories that happened to him. And after he told me all this bunch of bad stories, he said to me, if I could go back and understand what I know now at your age, my life would be different. Because I could have basically go back to your age, but I know what I know now. So he's telling me all these stories, and all of a sudden he's making me know what he knows now, but at my age. So I could take what he's saying to me and say, oh, I see, I could do life different. Because what I just learned an older person method and concepts and ideas on what they learn, bad, good, but I learned it at their teenage years. So I could start seeing life a certain way. So by the time I realized I was in my early 20s, I was seeing life a certain way, and I started, and when I would talk, it would be a problem for people because they're looking at somebody young, but they're hearing an older person. But what they didn't know is that I was always around older people and listening to what they're saying, trying to pick their brain, trying to figure out what it is because I want to get ahead of myself. I want to get ahead of their experience. So I started to understand that the race not necessarily for the swift, because somebody at 21 bursts out, break out. Is that a good thing? For you to have the world at your feet? Have people throwing themselves at you at 21? Can you really handle that at 21? Right? And how many people, when I was young and 21, they already had seen the world and know the world and they had the world at their feet. And many of them are not even alive. because they just die of whatever, some STD or some drug overdose. And I start realizing, oh, can't be too swift. Something you have to slow your roll. So notice here, what I learned from that conversation was that you need to be ahead of the game, but you don't have to be ahead of the game by you being ahead of the game. Just grab it from somebody else, learn from somebody else. So you do it with your might, but although you do it with your might, you start to realize that, say, I must have energy, but remember, I think Paul says, zeal without knowledge is what? It's dead. It's a bad thing. Because a person have too much might, but they're ignorant. What they're going to do, they're going to make a lot of bad decisions in the wrong direction. In other words, too much energy in the wrong direction is going to get you quicker to your destruction. So swift, you don't want to be swift. A person strong is almost a person destroying themselves because they're going at life and they're not going at life with tactics, with principles and concept of how to succeed in life, how to run a long race. Because somebody can make more money than you quicker and faster, but it's not necessarily that they can do it long term. When I was young, how many people became famous and they got that either movie star role or some musical talent, and within quick time they lose all their money, right? And if you look at their network now and your network now, your network is more than them. You say, how is that possible? Because they got it fast young when they didn't have the ability to handle it. So you can get out there quick, but can you maintain that? And I always say the one-hit wonders. Very few people could do 2 or 3 albums. By the time they do one album, they're washed up and bust up because they were, contrived by some engineer and producer. So the bread for not wise. Are the wisest people, so to speak, in this life the richest people? Not really. You could have a person very wise and end up on a trash heap of life. Understanding to are not favored to richest to men of understanding. Not all the time you have the person, some of the richest people in the world. They're not some of the smartest people. That's why you look at sometimes they do an interview with somebody that's a multi-billionaire and you realize they just stick with what they do. They can make money, but they don't understand life. Real easy. Because somebody understands how to make a chip doesn't mean they understand politics. Does that make sense? No, because somebody is a multi-billionaire in any way, they know to run the country. But people think that. So are they favored to men of skill? Right? Favored to men of skill. You can have a person that have not much skill, but they have more favor. They can get more favor because they understand how to talk. But time and chance happening. Everybody get their chance and everybody get their time. So time, you want to be able to make time be on your side. You want to know how to make time. And this is one of the things that you have to do. You have to know what is it you're doing and that you can do it slower, but it's more controlled and you have more control. Because remember, a person that's, what we're doing is trying to mitigate risk and want to decrease our risk because we don't want to lose because losing is too expensive. So everything you're doing, you're trying to go at it in a very diligent way, but you're going at it a prudent way because you want to reduce your risk and you not want to make it fast and lose it fast. Make it fast and lose it fast. Do you see this in the church also? That the church can baptize 100 people and within a year, the 100 people are not in the church anymore. They get them fast, they lose them fast because what happened, they can't maintain. In business, one of the things they always talk about is your churn rate. So in business, they always say churn rate because you can spend, if you spend $100,000 to get customers, and you have to spend the next year $100,000 to get customers and $100,000 to get customers. You're constantly in a perpetual $100,000 to get customers because you can't ever keep any customer. You have to be able to spend that money to get the customers and then retain some of that customer. Then spend that money again the next year, probably again in the following year. Probably in 3 years, you don't have to spend that money ever again because you've retained and now it becomes a word of mouth. Like as they say, it might take you a lot of work to make $100,000, but after you make $100,000, it becomes exponential. The initials, but you can't be spending like that all the time. So when we want to move in our position, we want to move from borrowing to lending, it's important to understand the principles that goes with that. That you're moving yourself in a position where you can get better at basically managing the money you have and then managing your career, your trade, your life, your personal life. I know a lot of people that are strong, but their life fall apart. I know a lot of people are swift, but their life fall apart in various different areas. Their health fall apart. I know a lot of people wise, but their health fall apart. Their body fall apart. Their marriage fall apart. Their kids fall apart. Everything fall apart around them. I know a lot of people with understanding, but their whole life is falling apart. I know people with skill, everything fall apart. They can't manage life. Does that make sense? And their life falling apart, but they have great skills. And throughout life, you're going to see people who probably could have been the best athletes, but they have no discipline, no self-discipline. You're going to see people, great singers, but they have no self-discipline. You're going to see people, great mathematicians, great physicists, great whatever, they have no self-discipline. Their life is falling apart. And many of them end up life where they just kill themselves. Because they realize, you're going to be weeping the national team because they realize they had opportunity and they end up like Judas. So you don't be like that person. You have to be able to understand that so life is more three-dimensional, as I say. And we're not going out there. Notice in Proverbs 7:13, verse 11, we're not going at life from just one point of view. So one of the things that everything I say to you here, one always have to remember that we never do anything without morality. Somebody can make more money than you and I, dollar money than you and I, because they have no morality. There's people right now probably calling your phone, trying to get you to spend money. There's people now that's going to rip off Aunt Tilly and try to take her retirement money from her. They can make more money than you and I. Long term, no. Short term, they can become richer than you and I. Because why? When you make how many dollars per hour, they can triple that, quadruple that, 10 times that within that hour by ripping off Aunt Tilly. That's just a fact. There's people right now who are multi-billionaires. These are the worst human beings on the planet. Right now, all these wars being fought, there's multi-billionaires and millionaires being made. Blood everywhere. And they're becoming very rich off of it. So we don't go with that type of war. We only believe that wars for self-defense are the only war. We don't believe in wars of conquest because that's just international stealing. So there's people that can make money that you can't even imagine. So we eliminate those off the table. In any discussion about finance, obviously, criminals and stuff can make more money than you and I. So we're not talking about that. We're talking about just people who just want to go and do a regular day job or do a business, and they're not going to steal people's money. If Proverbs 13, verse 11, well gotten by vanity shall be diminished, but he that gathereth by labor shall increase. So we keep that principle. Amen? We keep that principle. We want to make sure, that says it's better to have $10 in the bank and you got it by labor than you have $10,000 in the bank and it's gotten by vanity or gotten by criminality. All right? That's simply it. So we're running the game according to God's rule and according to rules that we never look over our back. We never look over our shoulder. We never have to worry about somebody knocking our doors. We're playing by the rules. We're not trying to rob nobody. So somebody could say, well, but does that mean that you're not the head? Listen, I don't have to be a billionaire to be the head because there's more value to life. I don't have to be a millionaire to be the head. There's more value to life. What is you're just going to do life where you're doing well for yourself and you're taking care of business, you're taking care of the poor, supporting the gospel, all of that, and you're doing good. Nobody have to, as they say, poop on you, but you don't have to be the richest person to be the head and not the tail because you have more value. Because remember, we preach the gospel. We live a moral life. We have more value than the richest people in the world. Because most of them, as I say, have no immorality and they have no backbone. And as I said, everywhere they go, poor people and women and kids are screaming. So Proverbs 13 again, verse 11 says, wealth gotten by vanity shall diminish. 25 years, this is the last 25 years. I don't have to go back further. How many major corporations and the top CEOs in the countries have bankrupt companies and they themselves have gone bankrupt? How many? How many of them were too big to fail and they fail? So we know this is true. And somebody could say, Lord, that's not true. Really? The country is 35-something billion, what? It's trillion. Right? $1 trillion in debt. Well gotten by vanity shall what? Remember, all this started with the war in Iraq. It was 100% an illegal war. It was 100% a war led by lying. Going to the UN and tell a whole bunch of lies, Colin Powell. And did that prosper the nation? So you cannot touch this text. This text is, as I say, I know the whole Bible is infallible, but this text is infallible. The last 25 years have proven this text to be true. Somebody could say, oh, but the corporations are so powerful. Look at them and these corporate leaders. No, they're not. If you look at quantitative easing that was done on the Donald Trump, a lot of the stock market wealth is come from the taxpayer's dollar and is added to the trillions of dollars of debt. That's not even questionable. The only thing you can say is, I'm just ignorant of what you're talking about, Lloyd. There's no question to it. This is facts. This is the only truth that is there in existence. And then you can add to it, but there's no question about what happened. The wars, famine, and pestilence has added to the debt. And when you add the debt of Medicare is going insolvent, Social Security is going insolvent. We add to that the consumer debt. And you keep adding all the debt up. You say, what is the value of these corporations, these corporate leaders? So when we build wealth, there's no question that it's better for me to add value, 10,000, 100,000, $1 million, whatever, but I got it through righteous means. I work for that money. Than get it by vanity. Because when you do criminality, let me read it again. Wealth gotten by vanity shall be diminished, not might be diminished. There's no question in this. Because if you look at it, it's 9-point-something trillion is on the national debt alone, just for quantitative easing. The 2008 crash, I think, at about 6 trillion. And then the save for COVID at about 3 trillion. Somewhere there. I can't remember the exact numbers. I don't have photographic memory, but I have a good memory. So you look at those numbers, and you can correct me and tell me even better. And I could tell you, that's literally the case. Added to the debt. And that was put into the market, and it still has not been rectified. Because what happened, that started, we remember under Clinton, because he had done so much wicked things and boost the economy by giving it to third world nations with these free market, we call it free trade agreements. We had a surplus, and that surplus was blown by one war after the other war after the other war, and we're still going to war, and it's still diminishing. Because this text says, we never do, as Christians, we never support, I don't care who it is, left or right, wars that are to steal people's property. Because they're theft. It's just the big guy doing theft on an international basis. So never make anybody feel like, say, because you might not worth $1 million. They have to prove to you that they did not get that $1 million by robbery and stealing. Because that wealth will be diminished. And even if they live a while with that wealth, their kids will die of a drug overdose. God will wipe out that value. We don't want curses coming in our lives, so we don't follow those wicked people. And we don't never make nobody tell us that the divide that we bring is not immense in comparison to them. Because at the end of the day, whatever money we have or don't have in our bank account, we work for it. And we never rob nobody. Wealth gotten by vanity shall be diminished, not might be diminished. But he that gathereth by labor shall what? Increase. To be the head and not the tail. Remember, it was a nation of priests, a royal nation. It doesn't mean that you're the king. It don't mean that you're the richest person. It means that whatever you have, you can account for it. The Irish can say, where's that dollar in your bank account? And say, I work for that dollar. Proverbs chapter 28, verse 20. Proverbs chapter 28, about 20. Sometimes I'm telling you something. I'm talking to you privately, although I stream online. Sometimes I go for those examples because as I say, you have to take things to its logical and sometimes illogical conclusion. So why I do that, I'm not trying to, probably somebody could hear me and thinking, I have an axe to grind. And if you think I have an axe to grind, I ain't worried about that. I'm just talking to those who know me. I don't have an axe to grind. What it is that say, my brain works in such a way that I took it because I've had people challenge some of these things. So I take things to the illogical or logical conclusion. Just to prove the point. So I go to the most crazy example I can find in my mind. Because I know people challenge, because somebody will say, look at someone like me and say, well, Lloyd, you're not a multi-millionaire, you're teaching these principles. And I say, yeah, sure. But the principles you're hearing came at great sacrifice to myself and my wife and those who support me over the years. So you make sacrifice for certain things. Because remember, prudence and diligence is that you have an aim that you're working for and you invest. Remember, everything I'm saying to you here is massive investment it comes with. It didn't come by just chance. I don't talk this way because I'm talking this way. So if you hear me, it's not an axe to grind. I just take things to an logical or illogical conclusion. The Bible says wealth gotten by vanity should diminish. I sit sometimes for hours thinking about these things. And I run my mind, okay, is this true? And then I come up with this kind of what you call crazy conclusion. So, okay, so if somebody, the mobsters, like I remember, I think the Hell's Angel, the dirty bikers, them, that ride in that's what they call them, dirty bikers, right? That's what they call them, the dirty bikers, the filthy dirty bikers. But anyhow, these dirty bikers that ride around in leather jacket, they were running drugs out of Mexico, right? And then they got busted. You could Google it, you see what I'm talking about. The feds went down heavy on them and busted them. Because remember, when you think about patriotic, the most patriotic people in America is the dirty bikers. Yes or no? They're the most patriotic, loving people. But they were, under the patriotism, they hide underneath it and they were carrying drugs. They were the perfect mules to carry drugs because everybody's looking at the Mexicans, the rapists from Mexicans, right? That's what the President Trump said. But you wouldn't think the dirty bikers are carrying the drugs because they're patriotic. They love the Americans. They wouldn't sell drugs to their fellow Americans, right? Would they? So that's the way I think. I go to the most logical or illogical thing. I say, let's see, let's test. Who are the most patriotic? Let me ask you this. Are billionaires the most patriotic Americans? Which Americans look out for white Americans from West Virginia and Kentucky the most? You see, that's my way my brain works. I just go to the most illogical. So I'm not trying to have an axe to grind. This is the way my brain think. I just think, okay, somebody say they're patriotic. Like if somebody come around and they say, I love kids. How my brain gonna think? If you know me now, you know how my brain think. I'm like thinking, who is this person? They love kids. I need to go investigate who they are. You see, that's what my brain thinks because they say, I love kids more than anybody else. You see, but probably they do love kids more than anybody else. All right? So I'll just go invest. So that's what my brain thinks. So, if you listen to me here, I don't want you to think like, say, I just lose the way my brain. Anything somebody say, I'll take it at face value and investigate. Somebody say, oh, I love America the most. I'll just like, really, let's see. So let me ask you this. Who are the most patriotic American? Billionaires? Because the billionaires, I'm seeing them online tell me that they're the most patriotic American. So I'll say, let's see what this guy, who is this guy? Does he have any skeleton in his closet? What have he done to America? Okay, is the FDA the most patriotic American? Is the CIA the most patriotic American? Is the American Medical Association the most patriotic American? I just go down the list. And let's see what their history. Let's see how much people they have killed in America. Are they the most patriotic? Proverbs chapter 28, verse 20. So that's what my brain thinks. I'm not trying to have the axe to grind. I just take every statement people say, I just take it at face value and investigate, and then run my mind, and then run my data and start looking at it and say, let's see, who's the most patriotic American? I try to say, but just in case somebody hear me here, they might think something. I'm like, get over yourself. I believe I love white American and black American more than anybody on the planet. And then prove me wrong. Do to me what I do to others. Proverbs 28, verse 20. Who caused more dead people in the last 25 years? Who sent more young Americans, 18 years and older, to war to go die and kill people all over the world? Who's the most patriotic? Who pays the most tax? Who look out for poor people and regular Americans the most? Is it billionaires? See, that's what my brain thinks. How your brain think? Proverbs chapter 28, verse 20 through 22 says, a faithful man shall abound with blessing. With what? With blessing. But he that maketh haste to be rich shall not be innocent. Shall not be innocent of what? How many times you see they have to pull products from the market? Products were FDA approved. How much money was made after they pulled the product? How much money was made? How many people died? Because somebody said the people who put Premarin on the market caused millions of American women to die of cancer. They're the most patriotic America. They love the country the most. And then they finally said giving women horse urine is not good. and he caused them to die. Who's the most patriotic American? Who love the people the most? You love them? But they're questioning you and me. But the people causing dead bodies are not questioning. He who is make haste to get rich will not be innocent. Why? You have to slow your roll. You can't be so quick to make money. But you will increase if you follow God's method. But if you do criminality and evil things to get rich, you will cause a lot of damage to people. To have respect of person is not good. Who have respect of person? You see a person, oh, look at him, he's a senator. Really? How much money do you have in his closet? For a piece of bread, that man will transgress. For what? You have to watch people. They're quick to sell out people for nothing. You see sometimes what these people take to sell their own fellow human beings out. You have to question because they're questioning us. They say we're the ones that are not faithful. But who is not faithful? Who causing dead bodies? He that hasted to be rich have a what? An evil eye, and consider it not that poverty shall come upon him. This is one of the only time I feel like I want to preach like one of the black pastors. Them. I want to spin and say, you didn't get that one. Could I spin and say I didn't get one? No. Right? I want to spin and say, you didn't get that one. Huh? Poverty shall come upon who? By the way, these people with the cryptocurrency, they're in prison or they're in Bali? Where they are? Oh, some of them in Bali, and then some of them in prison. The people with the cryptocurrency that like FTX, young man, multi-billionaire, 20-something years old. Was he in haste to get rich? Yeah. Was he innocent? There's one of them now in Bali, Bali. What is that, Indonesia? And they're asking him, I remember watching an interview on CNBC News, and they asked him, why don't you come back to America? Because Bali don't have an extradition treaty with America. And he's not going to come back. I think he's going to stay over there for a little bit. Because if he come back, what happened to him? The happy days on the beach is done. Because they're looking for him. They want him to come back so he can face the music. Right? Haste to get rich. But you see, when you do things methodically and you do things diligently with prudence, you're avoiding that type of risk. Risk of going to prison, risk of causing people to die. You don't want to do this. Everything you see, they don't do things and they quickly run in to grab money. They always fail. So you don't want to do that. You want to just watch everybody running past you. Have you ever seen the video where it's like everybody in gray going past the person and the person is slowly walking? You ever see that? There's an analogy they're doing, if it's a meme. But everybody just rushing. You have to make people rush by and watch them just rush by because they're going to go over the cliff like pigs and die. And you just have them rush by. And as you just do life methodically, you take care of yourself. When they rush by, you go home and go drink your green smoothie with spirulina and, what is that thing? And kale and stuff. And watch them go by because what happened? They're just going by on the cheeseburgers and donuts and whatever. They're going to hell. And you just watch them. Don't be at haste to get rich. Your time will come. You just have to make sure. You have to understand this life. People will get ahead faster than you because they're rushing and they're trying to take life and whatever. Sometimes you have to watch them also get married before you. Do everything before you. Because what happened, they probably, by the time you marry your first wife, they have 3 wives already. Proverbs chapter 10, verse 22. Proverbs 10, verse 22. You have to slow your roll. Just do life methodically. Just do it piece by piece. You'll get there. You're not going to get there fast, but you'll get there. Tactics. As I say, you have to do life with tactics. Some strategizing. You have to have a plan for your life. And make the plan long. The shorter the plan is just, that's when you make mistakes. And you make bad choices. Proverbs 10, verse 22. Proverbs 10, verse 22 says, the blessing of the Lord, it maketh rich. And he had it what? No sorrow with it. The blessing of the Lord, it make it rich, and he added no what? No sorrow to it. It's good to go through life where when you have something in your hand, you say, I don't have no regrets. I have no dead bodies. Amen? It's good to go through life. You don't have to always look over your shoulder and sleep. You can sleep at night. I was used to be told that said, Lord, it's better to be able to go to sleep at night and you can just fall asleep. No nightmares. No word that says somebody coming for you. If somebody come after you, it's because they're doing criminality. It's not because you owe them something, you rob them of something, or you cause hurt to them or their family members. Make sure that nobody have to go to court and sue you or call the police on you because you robbed some Aunt Tilly or you robbed somebody. You go to bed. So somebody said, but what if you not get rich like that person over there? Yeah, let them make their money. Because what happened, the Lord had no sorrow to that blessing. When the Lord bless you and you increase and He make it you rich, you know that's the money you have is what it is. I remember my concept of, I remember when me and Tamar moved into our first apartment, somebody told us that we made it. So understand, my criteria for rich is not what the society has as criteria for rich, right? Just get that, just in case somebody hear me talking about finance, they might think, for me, middle class lifestyle is a great lifestyle. I don't know about you and me, but it's a good lifestyle, right? It's still hard work and it's toil, but it's a good life. You don't have to be, and especially you have self-control. I'm going to deal with this when we talk about tithe, I think 2 weeks from now. If you have self-control, as I say, when I go into the supermarket, most things in the supermarket, I will not buy. And by God's grace, I never fall from this stance and buy. So I have a lot of money when I go into the supermarket. Because sometimes I go into the supermarket and the most money I spend things on is lettuce. Literally. There's times I go into the supermarket and buy 6 heads of lettuce. Right? I'm just saying the truth. Right? Sometimes I can't hold the stuff because I have too much lettuce. That's the fact. So for me, most of the supermarket doesn't exist. So, and I see people come to the supermarket with like bags. Now, the difference is I do go to the Indian supermarket, the Asian supermarket. I go to the Amazon supermarket, Country Life supermarket. So I shop at different places. So that's why the supermarket, I don't get too much things. But I'm going to go all over the place to try to find what I need. But I'm just saying, no sorrow. You want your blessing to come without sorrow. Luke chapter 6, verse 38. Luke 6, verse 38. Christ here speaks another principles that we want to look at. That we understand that, as I say, so, when I'm talking, I realize something I'm ahead of myself, and I probably should have defined when I mean, say, riches or wealth and stuff like that. And, it's occurred to me that I never defined what is that. But for me, I just see like a middle class lifestyle. I don't really see you need to be a billionaire. Because number one, I think if you have more than 200 and something thousand dollars in the bank, the government will not insure it. So you have $1 billion in the bank, the government don't know nothing about that. Can't even put insurance on that type of money. What else? You can put it in gold bar, but if your house burned down, they're going to burn down with a gold bar. And then Matthew 24 applies. That says they stand not left one stone and for another, and then you can't even plow to find a goal. So on and on I can go. So for me, I'm just looking at where you live in a comfortable life. That's probably I should have defined it from this morning. It's a comfortable life. It's a comfortable middle class lifestyle. As I say, me and Tamar made it when we started getting our own apartment. We made it, and we felt like we made it. We have an apartment, a bicycle, we have kayak. We live in good life. You can go hiking, can row down the river. When we get kayak, we had upgrade from tube. We had a tube, like he wanted to, drown us or something. So we upgraded to kayak, and we're doing good. We're in the big times. Yeah, upscale. We upscale. Got move on to the east side. So anything after that, we're just rolling. I don't know about that, right? So rolling, right? What is it? You move up from days into, I don't know what is above days in Marriott or something, and we're like living rich. So Luke chapter 6 verse 38 say, "Give and it shall be given unto you, good measure, pressed down and shaken together, and doing what? Running over." This is what you want? Yeah. So what you do? You give. But somebody said, Lloyd, but you told me that I can't give to just anybody. No, don't take your money and give to drug users. If somebody want to go to rehab, that's who you support. That's simple. Because if you were on a drugs, what you want people to do? Give you money to buy drugs or give you money to go to rehab? Right, give you money to go to rehab, right? So notice here, shall men give into your bosom, for with the same measure that you meet withal, it shall be measured to you again. So I want to be blessed. So I want to bless people, and I want to make sure that I'm blessing people who needs to be blessed. In other words, Ellen G. White makes this statement. She says, we must be loving and lovable. I must bless people, but they need to be a recipient for blessing. Does that make sense? There's people who need a blessing, but they're not a recipient for blessing. Just like I would not invest my money with everybody because some people can waste the investment. So in giving, I have to have the same mindset as in investing and lending. A lender, and I didn't get to finish the conversation upstairs, so I'll finish it here. I used to do mortgages, and what you're looking for a person that can fit the loan criteria, and you're looking for a person that can pay back. The lending is always based upon what? Upon payback, because I'm representing, say, the bank, and I'm lending to the person. I have to look at what the bank is looking for and say, I think you'll fit with this bank and this loan. But I'm looking for the bank to make back its money. So I have to look and say, this person is not in a way to be lent to. So in my mind, I was trained a lot to look for criteria. And I remember I used to work, the person that owned the company, I was a worker, person that owned the company I was working for, he was said to me, he had owned a property, a house on the Chesapeake Bay River. Am I saying it right? There's a river over there in Chesapeake. Never see the house. But he said, it's a nice house. I said, okay. So I'm assuming it's a nice middle-class house. And he said, Lloyd, when I think about what I could do to get a bigger and better house, I know what I could do because I know how to make myself look on paper so I can get a bigger loan. But he said, when I think about that, I know I shouldn't do that because the bigger loan means bigger amount of payments I have to make, right? But you know what it is like, because if you know what the banks are looking for, the bank is looking for somebody that's going to repay the loan. But there's a way he's saying I could make myself look like I could repay the loan, but not necessarily I can repay the loan. He's saying personally, I already have a nice house. I have a house on a river. I've never been there, but I know I see that. I think that river runs to near the White House or somewhere, right? Chesapeake Bay. So it's somewhere in that area, right? Maryland, D.C. area. But he says, I could get a better house. And I know how to get the house because I need to set myself up for a loan. I know how to, I'm the one that does this for a living, so I can set myself up to look good on paper. But at the end of the day, what he still has to do? He has to pay the thing. So what he started riveting in my mind is this idea that you could look good, that you're a recipient. And the banks will look at you and say, I can lend to you because what the banks want, they want the money with interest. They don't want a failed loan. They want the loan back. Plus, they want to make money. They're in the midst of making money, and you want to leverage their money to buy a house that you couldn't afford right now. Because they say long term, we believe that in 30 years, you're going to pay us back, even probably less than 30 years. So they'll give you a loan. All right. So on both sides, if you understand what the lender is looking for or the investor is looking for, I should say it wrong. I should say what the lender is looking for or the person going to invest in you looking for. You can make yourself investment grade. Does that make sense? You can put yourself in a way that an investor will come and say, I'm going to invest in you. Is that important for you? Is that important for you? Are you in business? You getting there? Are you investment grade? You think you're investment grade? All right. You think that they should invest more money in you or less? More. That's no, we're talking. All right. Now we're talking. The banks The Greens banks need to look at you, and what they need to think. You look like you're investment grade, and they look like says, listen, I'm long term, I'm gonna get my money out. Now it's not gonna be money, it's gonna be feel good. Right? But it's like it's gonna be so that's what I'm saying, not all investment as a payday in the dollars and cents. Right? But there's other value because let's say if you go on a bicycle, you start riding a bicycle. You're looking for a payday, but it's not a payday where it calculates in lines on your checking account or savings account. It's just a different payday. You know, as I say, if I drew some greens and drew some carrots and some apples and stuff, I'm looking for a payday, but it's not a payday in that sense. It's a different payday. But we can set, when you understand from a financial point of view, and I probably should break this down now I'm thinking about it, more, probably put up an example. Like probably 5 criteria that the banks are looking for that I can remember off my head. You can set yourself up with the bank says, because they call it like say there is the credit, you want a credit score. So you get your credit score to be like 700 or more. Then you get the income, and then you get income potential. So they'll say if a person just finished med school and they have 3 years residency, but in the second year they want to buy a house, the bank would say, we give them a bigger loan. And somebody say, why? Because the income potential can be way high. It's much higher. Now somebody who's doing a job where it's a 9 to 5 and they've been doing a job for 10 years, they just want the flat income. They don't care about potential or probably get a raise because the income potential is not that high. See, there's different criteria. So what the guy was saying to me, I could make myself look good because I know what to do. I could go to get a part-time job, work that part-time job for a little bit, and now say, oh, that's an income. But the moment I get the house, I quit the part-time job, and then I need to figure out now, how do I pay the bill? Oh, I have a headache here, right? This way. So in life, what it is, you have to say, in a lot of things in life, am I investment grade? Can somebody look at me and say, I think I would put some money in that person. It's not guaranteed like with Timothy, because I was talking about Timothy earlier. Timothy is not guaranteed with him that he would have succeeded, but at least he showed that there's a possibility for success. So you can put the money down with a hope that you're going to get it back because no investment is not at risk. And remember, if somebody say, like, what are you talking about? Listen, the FDIC only insure a certain amount of money. Everything beyond that, I don't care how rich a person is, that money is not safe. Somebody could say, oh, it's billions of dollars. 2002, you look 2022, there's one guy lost for one family, $2.something billion. That money can get wiped out. In one day, the market can evaporate trillions of dollars. In one day. That money can get wiped out. So money above a certain amount of money is it's not even liquid, it's just talk. Somebody could say, oh, this person, the richest person, they're worth such and such a billions of dollars. Yeah, but if the stock goes to $100, they just lost, they come off of the list. Does that make sense? So we don't worry about that. What we're worried about is the lifestyle we live in. As I said, there's things that I have to do that don't bring me no money, and I'm happy to do it because it brings me immense riches, but riches in a different way. That's why we're here on Sabbath. Different story. So we want the thing pressed down. 2 Corinthians chapter 9 verse 5. Let's look at this broader principle here again. 2 Corinthians 9 verse 5. Now look at this here with me. And you see the importance of this principle. Now notice here, Paul talking to the Corinthians, he writes 2 Corinthians 9 verse 5. Therefore I thought it necessary to exhort the brethren that they would go before unto you and make up beforehand your bounty, whereof ye had noticed before, that the same might be ready as matter of bounty and not of covetousness. So notice now he's going to go into the talk here. I'll keep the text so you can see it. All right. But this I say, he which sows sparingly shall reap also what? Sparingly. And he which soweth bountifully shall reap also what? Bountifully. So what he's saying here, you have to go at life and say, if you want to be in a situation, you have to sow in that way. In other words, you have to start thinking and doing things in a way that if you want to become the lender of first resort, not last resort, you want to be able to Start to think like that and start to make moves like that. No guarantee in this life, but you're increasing your probability by even thinking. So remember, if you listen to me here, and somebody could be listening to me. So when I was thinking about this, I was thinking, okay, what if I'm dealing with somebody 70, they just heard me, and they're not doing too well financially for their life? Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. You start to want to think this way, and so want to make certain moves this way. Anything is possible with God. You just have to think in a certain way and say, okay, how do I do this? And remember, what we cover here, I'm covering multitude of ways to be able to succeed. So we're talking about spiritual, we're talking about health, we're talking about finance, because I see it as one total process. Remember, we can walk and chew gum. Our brains are made to be very complex. So when I think about this, I'm thinking about somebody mostly younger person, and I'm thinking about a person older. I'm saying, okay, what if I was talking to somebody 70 years old, and I'm saying to them, listen, you can do wonderful things for the rest of your life. And they'll be like, what are you talking about? That's why we talk about health. Because I'm telling you, every single method you can do to be able to sow bountifully and reap bountifully. Right? So he that soweth sparingly shall also reap sparingly. And he which soweth bountifully shall also reap bountifully. Every man according to as he purpose in his heart. So who? Who is stopping you? Who is stopping you? This week I was reading, I think it's an award given out by, can't remember the name. It's an award given out by this company. And what they do, they show you like 12-year-old, 13-year-old, 15-year-old who goes out there and do stuff. And there was a kid that won the prize because he did a soap for people with skin cancer. He invented a soap for people with skin cancer. But it's 15 years old. What old is he? Could a 70-year-old do that? Yeah. Could a 40-year-old do that? Yeah. Let's say I'm going to come up with a soap of whatever. And you just do it. It's the way you think. So man thinketh, so is he. Every man according to as he purpose in his heart, so let him give. Not grudgingly or of necessity. For God loveth a what? Cheerful giver. And that's how you have to go at life. You have to just go at life and say, listen, God's going to bless me. And so I bless. I don't hold back, I bless. Because the more I give is the more God bless me. And God is able to make all grace abound towards you. So what is grace? Grace is God unmerited favor. And God says, if you bless others, I can make grace. I can't see the grace, but I can experience it. And I believe God's grace is upon us. And God will just make grace go your way. And just bless you. Because you don't hold back, you bless others. That ye always having all sufficiency in all things may abound to every good work. What kind of good work? Every good work. So whatever good you can see out there in life, you can abound to it. You can attain to it. As it is written, he hath dispersed abroad. He hath given to the poor. His righteousness remain what? Forever. Right? So you want to be able to think like this. You want to think, who am I blessing? As I say, when you talk about giving, one of the things that we have to get into our heads is this simple idea, not to struggle with this idea and deal with this idea, because you deal with people sometimes suffering, but they're suffering because they're not worthy of even grace. Everybody needs grace because grace is what? Unmerited favor. But the only grace I think that people need primarily is they need a rehab when they're on drugs. There's people that, it's tough. Like even this week I saw people getting arrested for leaving their kids in the car in total heat. What does the police do? Do they give them grace? Just arrest them. It's rough. Sometimes the only grace people need is just to be locked away. And so they can stop and think about what they're doing. So that's why I say in this discussion it's always difficult, because although I'm saying this, I want to tell you, I'm saying this about grace, but it's a sermon in itself, because I have to always clarify, because there's people who are worthy poor and there's people who, no matter how much you help them, they're going to take your money. As I say, the worst thing is to do, give your money to somebody and you see them go buy drugs and alcohol with that money. And that money could have been given to somebody who really need that money, because there's people who need that money. Does that make sense? I look at it and say, every time I put my money to waste like that, there was somebody that could have given the money that needed that money. And they now didn't get that money because that money went to somebody that's a joker. That's how I look at it. Easy, right? And I leave it at that. I can leave it and move on. Because it's a difficult discussion. The nuance of it, because somebody said, well, everybody needs grace. I get you. But as I'm saying, I'd prefer to give my money to a fatherless child, a stranger, a disabled person, an older person, and my time and my energy, than give it to somebody that's going to take my money and buy drugs and alcohol or gamble with the money. Does that make sense? It's difficult to have, and people can judge. Don't judge me. Just think about what I'm saying. All right? So I'm saying we all need grace and stuff like that, but some people, you don't take your money and give to them. Anyhow, difficult subject. So as it is written, so you have to deal with this in your family and in your personal life. You see people strung on the side of the street on heroin, opiates. Do you give them money? That money could have gone to somebody that really need it because they're really suffering, somebody that's disabled and stuff like that. So I prefer to give my money to people who are really sick and not people who are going to take it and buy video games and stuff like that. That's just me. You have to deal with that in your own personal life. I'm just telling you personally what I do. And I've done that before, and then find the person buy drugs, and I feel bad about it because I waste my money. If somebody have a cause, they got in an accident, whatever, they're the one that need money. These people are jokers. Anyhow, as it is written, he dispersed it abroad, and he had given to the poor. So this is talking about the poor, not people on drugs. His righteousness remained forever. So I just want to clarify, this is not, when the Bible uses the word poor, it's talking about the fatherless, the widow, the stranger. Those are disabled, the blind, people are crippled. You know what I mean? And I know there's people who argue against this. That's why I'm kind of wasting time here. Because people say, oh, they're poor. No, not every poor is poor. There's people that made up their mind that they're slothful and they're going to be poor. The Bible cursed them. We did with that earlier today. Now, he that ministereth seed to the sower, both minister bread to bread for your food, and multiply your seed sown, and increase the fruit of your righteousness. So notice here, it is something that must be done. This is where I depart from every single mainline denomination and their leadership. I believe that the Bible talks about grace, but it talks about your work. You have to put in work and receive God's grace, put in work and receive God's grace. So when giving, lending, whatever, we always use criteria. Remember, only in the church we become irrational and stupid. In secular business, you lend to people that you think going to repay. You invest with companies you think going to be able to make money. They don't have to make money, but you think they can make money. And you're supposed to give to people who are worthy poor. Does that make sense? And I'm only like staying here on this point because there's people who will argue against this all day long, and most of them, they're cretins. They're very terrible human beings. They support a lot to encourage people to destroy themselves. The Bible is very clear. You will never invest with a person that's on the side of the street rolling marijuana. That's not an investment. That's you're throwing away your money. You'll never invest in a company that's showing you signs that they're going to fail. You invest with companies that are doing good for themselves, or they're trying to rebuild their company. Right? Being enriched in everything to all bountifulness, which causeth through us thanksgiving to God. So Paul is saying, when you do better, and then God will be blessed. A few more texts here. 3 John chapter 1, verse 2. 3 John 1, verse 2. That shouldn't be so difficult, but it is difficult to talk because I can hear people in my head. Probably they're renting space in my head. Right? That's probably not a good thing. But I'm hearing people in my head argue against, it's sad, but I hear people might argue against, who to help. I think you just help those that the Bible tells you to help. If somebody hungry because they're spending all day long playing video games, probably want one meal, probably. But after that, they have to at least go get a part-time job, do something. Else you're really helping people to just be slouch and sluggards. That's just my opinion. 3 John chapter 1, verse 2 says, Beloved, I wish above all things that thou mayest prosper and be in health, even as thy soul prospers. So we prosper spiritually, we prosper financially, and we prosper in our health. We cover health already. We normally deal with soul prosperity. In the end of the quarter, we deal with soul prosperity. Our next quarter, now we deal with financial prosperity for the next few weeks into September. Acts chapter 20, verse 32 through 35. Acts chapter 20, verse 32 to 35. Notice this principle again He now becomes the lender, the investor, and whatever. You have to have criteria of how do you do life, because you want to make sure that every dollar you have is accounted for. You want to make sure you don't lose your money. You want to make sure that every money you have count, because you work hard for your money, because you're only doing well by investing, lending, giving, God's blessing, and your hard work. So Acts chapter 20, verse 32. And now, brethren, I commend you to God and to the word of his grace, which is able to build you up and to give you an inheritance among all them which are sanctified. I have coveted no man's silver or gold or apparel, because you work for it. Now I'll show you now. This is how Paul lived. Ye, he say that. Ye, and then what's the second word? Ye. So ye, sorry. Yourself know that these hands, I almost want to say yee-haw, but these hands have ministered unto my necessity, and to them that were with me. So, very important here. Is Paul a lender at that point, an investor, and a giver? Is he all of what we're talking about? Yes. It says, yea, ye know that these hands, which hands? What was Paul trade? A tent maker. So Paul was a preacher of the gospel? Yes. That was his primary skill we'll know him for. But Paul would work making tents, right? So he works and he makes tents. So these hands ministered unto whose necessity? His necessity, my necessity, right? And to them that were with me. Brilliant. Here's Paul. He preaches, he works, he takes the money he works, and he gives the money to those who ministers with him. So he can sustain people in the ministry, and also himself, but also he's working physical job. So Paul is doing two jobs at the same time in order to sustain a ministry. So we see a concept here that somebody said, Lord, but Paul is not a banker. Paul is not a lender. Paul is not an investor. If you understand how he talks about Timothy, he talks about he understands these concepts. Because when he talks about Timothy, what he's talking about is that he himself have put forward a process that at times people will be full-time ministering while working with Paul, and he's doing full-time ministry but part-time working doing tent work. When he worked with Aquila and Priscilla, which used to confuse me because I thought that's two female names. But one is male and one is female. I guess they're Greek or something. What were they again? I forget. What is it? Yeah. So anyhow, he worked with a couple. But as he's working with the couple, he just up and he connect with them because they're Christians and they're tent makers also. But he will work with them and stay with them and minister to his necessity, but also he's doing a day job plus preaching the gospel. Right? So is Paul an investor? Yes. Because remember, not all investments are investments in the sense that you must make some money. What is Paul investing in? What is Paul's investment? In the preaching of the gospel. Paul is an investor in the preaching of the gospel. The increase of the members and the church becomes Paul's blessing. Paul is giving all to the gospel. So when Paul died, how much money did he have left? What did he have left to give? Did he give it all? Somebody could find a quotation on the Sabbath school lesson for me about this thing. Somebody find it. I was talking about it earlier and I thought it was a beautiful quotation. Because Paul lived that quotation. That's why I like it so much. Paul had lived that quotation. I think it's on Tuesday, Wednesday, or somewhere like that. Because what he's doing here, he's showing you that not every investment is the same way. You found it, Nathan? Yeah, okay, go ahead and read it for me.
He is no fool who gives what he cannot keep to gain that which he cannot lose.
All right, so tell me first the name of the person that is being quoted.
Jim Elliot.
What?
Jim Elliot.
Jim what? Oh, Elliot? All right, so read it again for everybody again, and this time put the mic a little bit closer to your mouth.
He is no fool who gives what he cannot keep to gain that which he cannot lose.
Also, he is no fool that give what he cannot keep to gain what he cannot. Gain what he cannot what? To gain what he cannot what? Lose. Right. Very important. So Paul saw that there's more value outside of just dollars and cents. Right? Because there's more important. Because when you see a person, like, again, I think in extreme streams, so don't judge me. But when you see a person receive the gospel and decide not to kill himself, how much money is that worth? How much worth is that worth for a person hear the gospel and decide to get off drugs, get off alcohol, get off the sodomite lifestyle, whatever it is. Straighten themselves up. Regret that they castrate themselves. What's the value of that? So that's what you have to think about. So Paul sees it not just in the sense of dollars and cents, because I say our value is not just, okay, how much money, what's in your wallet and what's you have in the bank? Well, Paul will say to you, Lord, I'm broke. I have no money. But there's people that's going to make it in the kingdom because of me. There's people who straighten up their life because of me. There's families that were supposed to get a divorce and they decide not to get a divorce because of me. There's people who are about to kill themselves and they didn't, so forth and so on. They straighten up their life because of the gospel. So Paul says, I see this as immense value. So somebody could say, how about there's people richer than him physically? Yeah, but, as I say, in the last 25 years, so much billionaires have gone broke. And some of them they find some high-rise building in New York City and jump off. So we understand there's more value to life. I remember years back I was down in South Jersey. I was camping. And I was talking to this lady who came from, I guess you would call it middle-class, well-to-do family. Father, I think, was a doctor, blah, 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 blah. But she said what she never had was a family life. And she was working in the camp office. So she probably have a middle-class lifestyle. She's married, have a family, and she said, I'm so happy I have a wonderful life. This is a life I never had when I was a child. But I came from money. And it's not just she was saying it. She looked happy and she looked like she have a satisfied life. But without the big money. So somebody could say, why would somebody trade that? They say almost you never see a scan does well for themselves. Most of them always end up all depressed and crazy. They're nuts. All of these famous people that we met in life, you've dealt with in life or heard about in life, look at their kids. When you have a time, just go Google that for me. And you see what I'm talking about. Most skians, there's another way to say that. Most famous rich people, kids, always are some of the most troubled people. And one thing they always say, they never had a proper family life. It was all a show. Because this life is all about they look good and sound good and stuff like that. And all the time, they just miss just being just regular people with happy families. So value is not all that is sometimes cracked up to be. So that's why I say it depends on how you look at what's a rich life. The richest life you can live, and you can find out and say, if you live a regular middle class lifestyle, you can have the richest life. Most of the other stuff is fluff, for me at least. 35 says, I have showed you all things, how that so laboring ye ought to support the weak. Support the who? This is why I believe that's why the church has been emptied out of the evolutionists. Because we have a society of evolutionists, and everything that they believe is antichrist. Everything. I say it again. All evolutionists, they're antichrist. Even if they didn't do it purposefully. Just by default, they're antichrist. And that's a strong statement. And I can readjust it if you show me some evidence otherwise. Because can an evolutionist support the weak? Because what do evolutionists think? They need to eat the weak. Because it's survival of the strongest. That's a pedophile, sorry? It's what? It's the survival of the fittest. The Bible teaches that he who's the fittest do what? Servant of the weakest. They're anti-Christ. They're against Christ and against the Bible. That's why the church is emptied out of them. I've been saying this in the church, need to be emptied out of them. Because they need to come again. They need to start back over. Because they know the understanding of the Bible. The Bible is anti the culture. The culture is a culture that whoever is strongest beat and dominate and destroy the weakest. It's very clear in the Bible. Paul was strong, tough as a nail. If you read the Bible, only David and probably Jesus and who has come close to him. Nobody has come close. I mean, Jesus out supersede him. And Jesus didn't even take the beatings he take. Because Jesus took the beating at the cross. Paul took the beatings through his life. And he kept on going, tough as a nail. Tough as a nail. Only Christ took more beating than him. You look at anybody in the Bible. Job come to mind. I won't even say Moses. Who has come to mind? There's only certain tough people in the Bible. Because Jesus they hunted down Jesus, trying to throw him off the cliff, blah, blah, blah. You read about Jesus, you say, wow. You read about Paul, you say, man, he's been beaten, shipwrecked, left to death, stoned to death, blah, blah, blah. And my man will just get up and keep going. He is the fittest. And so if he's the fittest, who is supposed to do? He's supposed to look out for the weak. In our society, the bigger the country, the fitter the person, they beat down on the poor. That's why you have the oppression. Somebody asked me a question. I said, let me ask you again, why is there a war? You know what the main reason why war? Because people will oppress you. And people need to throw off oppressors. And something you have to fight to the death to go throw off oppressors. But Paul comes in and Jesus comes in and said, no. Turn the other cheek. But how long could Jesus turn the other cheek? Not for long, because the moment he started turning the other cheek, guess what happened? They're going to kill you. Who did they kill through the history? The prophets. Were the prophets the weakest men? No. You know why the prophets are not the weakest man? Because try speaking the truth, and you find they cancel you. Somebody goes, oh, this person is strong. Really? What is he strong about? Weak. Because you can't stand for the truth. They always have to stand on the side of the juggernaut, the superpowers, the great powers of this earth. Because they know if they don't stand on the side of that, they're going to come after you. So you look at Paul. Paul shows a totally different principle, and it's a Prince of Christ. He who is the strongest support the weak. So if you ever hear me, why have a pecking for what America, France, and Canada does to Haiti? Because I see Haiti as the weak. Somebody say, oh, but they have voodoo there. Stop your foolishness. They have voodoo everywhere. There's no more voodoo working on this country. Let me ask you this question. In the time of Christ, was the Jewish people filled with demon-possessed people? Was that, not filled, but there's a lot of demon-possessed people there. Let's say it properly. Yeah. Do they have less demon-possessed people in Israel right now? Did they do devil worship in Israel in the time of Elijah and Elisha and in Jesus' time? Did they stop doing devil worship? Oh, but Haiti have devil worshippers. Yeah, well, so does America. What's a Freemason and secret society and the elk and the lodge and every owl and peacock come, every crazy bird that they have as some worship. What do you think they're over there doing? They're raping kids? Who knows? The walls are covered. And I keep seeing is missing kids. And I know in old world, NGY say it's old world paganism they do in those buildings. What is old world paganism? Sacrifice kids. So how are you going to tell me something about Haiti? I'm going to tell you, man, you don't know what you're talking about. There's voodoo everywhere. They probably have more there than you know. But guess what happened? We do not oppress the weak. Because we serve Jesus, who became weak so that we could become strong. Became the servant of man to serve us, and watch the juggernaut, the conference, and the powerful leaders beat up. So we're not for that. We believe that a stronger person will open up their mouth and speak up and stop acting like a coward and stop making these people get away with crime and not even speak. You can't even stop them, but you can't even speak and say, you are wicked. And you know they're wicked. So remember, support the weak. And remember the words of the Lord Jesus, that all he said, it is more blessed to give than to receive. So Covenant Advent Church /donate. CovenantAdventChurch.org or CovenantAdvent.org /donate. Because the Lord says more blessed for you to give than to receive. Psalms 23, verse 1 through 6. Almost there. Psalm 23, verse 1 through 6. So you want to be the lender. You want to be the investor. You want to invest. You have to have a criteria. You have to decide that you're going to be that. You have to have criteria how to do it. You have to understand. Number one, that what I'm saying all morning from earlier. It must be investment grade. It must be, if you're giving to somebody, it must be donation grade. Not everybody you should give your money to. It has to be donation grade. If you know somebody is an alcoholic, you're not supposed to be giving them money unless they're going to a rehab. Your money is for the sick, the poor. You have to look at it. The wicked people in the society is destroying people. You have to look at, you're trying to help the people they're destroying. That's the last day's message to me. Psalm chapter 23, verse 1 through 6 says, the Lord is my shepherd. What he says there? I shall not want. Somebody said, Lord, but again, the extremes of my mind. What if you're disabled? You need to belong to a church like Covenant. You need to belong to people who are going to bless you. I know people right now struggling in life and they need a church and some people around them. If you need some supplement, you shouldn't be able to not get some supplement that's worth $100. That means you don't belong to a church. You don't belong to people. Because remember, in this life, those who are disabled, truly sick, can't go to work because they're extremely sick. Those that are fatherless, widows, and stuff like that. That's what the church is supposed to do. So I think that's it. If you're any of those people, you need to belong to a church. Don't belong to the secular society because the secular society will eat you. Because that's their philosophy. I shall not want. I've known people right now, they're suffering and they have wants because they don't belong to nobody. You have to pay the piper. That's just the life that we live. Where do you belong to? You have a church family? Or are you just out there by yourself? He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. That sounds such like a break. It sounds so loud. He'll make me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside what? Is there raging waters going on out there? Yeah. A shepherd is supposed to be leading you. That's if you follow the shepherd teaching, you're supposed to get some green to eat and you're supposed to get some still waters. Although we were talking about greens earlier, but you know what I'm saying. He restored my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Notice, the paths of righteousness. So we emphasize here that you need to take care of your health. You need to take care of your finance. You need to take care of your spiritual life, your family life, and all this. All this is what we're doing here. It's just, to me, I just look at it as paths of righteousness. I'm doing my job. At least I'm trying to. Because I'm the under shepherd of the shepherd. Yea, do I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. Do we live in the valley of the shadow of death? Yeah. But that's what a shepherd is supposed to do. A shepherd is supposed to be like, I know where we're at. Looking at what's coming. Looking at where we're at and seeing, okay. But notice it says, I will fear no evil. For thou art with me, thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. But as I say, whack the wolf in his head. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of my enemies. Do you have enemies? Or your worst enemies? Those of your own household. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of the Sanhedrin, in the presence of the Sadducees, in the presence of the Pharisees. Do they want you to fail? Are there people that want you to fail? Are there people who want you to fail because of your veggies? They want you to probably drop that off cancer so they can say, see? I remember when I was young, I heard a story. And the story was that the lady was a vegetarian, Adventist lady, vegetarian. And she was in a hospital, dying of cancer. And she says, just before she died, she said, get me a cheeseburger. Not a vegan cheeseburger. And I'm like, why are they telling that story? I don't like that story. Why did they? You see, people like those type of stories. Because what they want you to do? Fail. If I'm going to die, why am I going to have a cheeseburger? I always say, I'm not going to fight to keep what I don't have, because this life, we all going to die. Right? We all, as this pastor would say, Pastor Alfield would say, we all old age positive. Right? And every day I get up, and then some days it's worse than the other days. Some days I get up and I'm thinking, this can't go on for much longer. I'm like, I don't know if I can live to see next week or next month. Some days it's bad because, Lord, two tithes are cropping up. On other days, we're doing good. Thanks for the joke. So notice here, thou preparest a table before me in the presence of my enemy, because my enemy need to see me eating some gluten-free bread. I don't know. And thou anointest my head with oil. My cup what? Now, when your cup run it over, what are you supposed to do with the overage? I come here just for this. My cup run it over, right? When your cup run it over, what are you supposed to do with the overage? You have a cup in your hand, the Lord bless you. And the cup run it over. You do what with it? You share it. All right? So there's the fatherless, the widow, the poor, those that are naked, those that are suffering. Okay, the word the poor, because as I said, some people are jokers. All right, and then what does he do with the overages? Just stick to the topic. Whatever you do with that overage. You invest it. What do you, I don't want to hear what you say. Tell me after we finish. Because you're laughing. All right, you have your cup running over. You already have enough in your cup. The Lord prepare in your presence, right? The Lord prepare in your enemy presence. The Lord prepare a table before you. So you're good, and you have so much in your cup that there's so much blessing that it start come over, right? So you say, okay, you remember the poor. Then when you do the rest of the money, you say, you know what, I'm going to invest some of that money. I'm probably going to lend some of that money. Somebody need a business. Their business need to flourish. I need to give them some of that money, right? So you give, you lend, you invest. What are you investing with? I know you leave this point here. You investing with what's in the cup? Your car payment and your mortgage and your food and your whatever is in that cup. Is that what you're investing? No. What are you investing? Your excess, what's running over. What are you giving? Because remember, you can't give what you don't have. That's right? So you can't take, they say normally investment, especially like the stock market. They say you only can put money in there that you can afford to lose. Can any of you afford to lose money? No. But it's just saying, I look at it, I don't think it's not you can't afford to lose money. It's more so because most big companies, they have 401k, matching 401k. So you invest in the market. People fool themselves. You're going to invest in American treasuries or bonds, or you invest in the market. So you look at all retirement accounts, break down like that. So no, you put money, you can't take your mortgage and your food money and put it in the market. Does that make sense? You can't take your mortgage and your food money and give it to the poor. Does that make sense? Because you owe that money to somebody. You see that Uncle Sam, and who is his nephew? The local and state government. Because they have a name for Uncle Sam's nephew. And but you know what I'm talking about. His children, eh? The township. So Uncle Sam and the townships. So they need some money too. You can't take that money and give away that money. Right? Because if somebody said they want an organ transplant, if they want the organ transplant, can you give them a heart? How about a kidney? They have two. Maybe. All right. What if they need a slice of your liver? It's possible. But you can't give away your heart. And there's other things your body can't give away. Right? So you have to make sure that you take care of your, what? Your basic needs and necessities first. Because you can't give what you don't have. But somebody said, Lord, I have the money. Yeah, you kind of have the money, but you don't have all that money. A lot of that money has to go to Uncle Sam, and then to the township, you say? I don't know what the nephew them name. And then as Christians, we're supposed to give some to Uncle Jesus. I don't know how you call it. Eh? What you say? The father of uncle? Okay, I get you. That's a good way to say it. All right. So we almost close this off now. Almost 7. So notice here, thou prepares a table before me in the presence of my enemy. Thou anoint my head with oil. My cup runneth over. So that overages that you have there, you want to make sure that that cup, that blessing, you do something with that blessing. But if you're in a business, you have to know there's money that has to go back into the business. And then there's something you do with the profit. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. So we go to Matthew chapter 13, verse 31. I think I have 2 more to go. Matthew chapter 13, verse 31. So we'll get quickly through this very important point. Actually, I should spend more time on this point. But anyhow, Matthew chapter 13, verse 31 onward. Let's see if we can get through this here. It says, another parable put ye forth unto them, saying, the kingdom of heaven is like a grain of mustard seed, which a man took and sowed in his field, which indeed was the least of all seed. But when it was grown, it was the greatest among herbs, and becometh a tree, so that the birds of the air come and lodge in the branch thereof. So this is about growth. Have you ever seen a mustard seed? I don't know, that's a Bible study in itself. How does a mustard seed become a tree? How much genetical data is in that mustard seed? Have you ever been amazed by how a seed can create a tree or a flowers, and then the flowers grow? I can't. People say that there's things in the Bible that's hard to understand. I don't understand seeds and trees and plants. I just know it exists. I don't know how it does it. You see a seed, and somebody tell me that seed becomes a plant, or that seed becomes a tree. How does a fig seed become a fig tree and then bear? How does it know all of that and know you need to grow and create branches and brings, because people talk about bring photosynthesis in, get the energy from the water, take all of that energy from sun, water, soil, nutrients, and then create trunks or create branches, and then create a fruit at a certain time. How does it know, oh, this is summer and I need to put out the fruit by this time, because they need to get, the humans need to get the food by a certain time because they need to prepare for winter? How does the plant know all of that? Or the plant says, well, you know, when it's sunny, I'm going to get fruitation, and the fruit must bear not in 2 years or 3, but it will bear by summer end, so they can harvest me and get me. And there's so much data in a seed that you say, how is this possible? But what do we told? We're told simply we must put the seed in the ground and pray for God's blessing. Is that what we're told? And we must put the seed in ground that can bear fruit. That's what we're told. So you're not going to get it right all the time, but your intention is you want to seed where the seed can grow, and it's logical for the seed to grow, and then you leave the rest up to God. That's all we know. We don't know nothing else. But you have to do your part to make sure the seed is going into good ground. Or if you're the person that's going recipient of the loan, of the investment, that you are ready to take that loan and do something with it. Because there's times I can tell you, if somebody gave me money, you give me $1 million now and say, Lord, put that money to work, I'm going to say, I'm not ready for that money. Is that true? Because what will you do with $1 million now if you had it? To invest. Not to go on a cruise around the world. Think about that and answer me in a little bit. I'm going to come back to that. I'm going to the next parable. If somebody said, here's $1 million, what will you do with it right now? Not to, as I say, party, or go vacation. I don't know if you do that. But what will you invest it in? $1 million. Said yes earlier. He didn't say about $1 million. He says he's going to get back to doing the microgreens. That's what you're going to start doing, right? But you weren't talking about the $1 million. I know. I'm just saying you were saying that. Eh? You say you're going to start doing microgreens again. So, but that was how many years ago? It's been a few years, huh? So another parable speak he unto them, the kingdom of heaven is like unto a leaven, which a woman took and hid 3 measures of meal till the whole was leavened. So you find that this whole was leavened because she put it somewhere, and then there's a growth. How does the growth happen? There's some understanding, but you've seen how bread is made. And you see that the bread, you know, whatever, and you can bake, and you can eat the bread, you can make a sandwich and stuff like that. But there's this constant concept of the Lord that everything you do, you have to think about what? Growth. You have to think about multiplication. You have to think about your investing for increase. You have to think about your investing for return. There's always something that you're getting back. Not all the time is in value in the sense of money. Sometimes it could be just in a happier life. As I say, the lady told me, I'm happy now because I'm experiencing something I never experienced in my life, of a family and of a happy family life. For her, that was the biggest value. For somebody, it could be something else. It has to be for you. What's your value? Matthew 25, verse 34. Matthew 25 verse 34 says, then shall the king say unto them on his right hand, come ye blessed of my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the world. For I was an hungered, and you gave me meat. So we're talking about people who are really hungry. I was thirsty, and you gave me a well so I can drink water. I was a stranger, and you took me in. Who did this? Is this real talk? Are we supposed to take in strangers? Naked, and ye clothed me. I was sick, and you visited me. I was in prison, and you came unto me. Then shall the righteous answer, saying, Lord, when saw we thee an hungered, and fed thee, or thirsty, and gave thee drink? When saw we thee a stranger, and took thee in? And naked, and clothed thee? Or when saw we thee sick, or in prison, and came unto thee? And the king shall answer and say unto them, verily I say unto you, inasmuch as you have done to the least, the who? The least of my brethren, ye have done unto me. Is this counter the culture? I would put forward that this is counter the culture. That's why when you come to Christ, you have to give up the world. The world is not of God. The world is of Satan. We are not imperialists. We're not colonists. I could not execute what they're doing in Israel. If you saw the news, you can go into NBC News. It's important I say NBC News because NBC News is Jewish owned. And NBC News reported that 200 settlers went on a rampage killing how many Palestinians to took their land and to take over their stuff. And kill how many Palestinians this week. It was an embarrassment for the Palestinians. And they're calling for not only investigation but to arrest. What they say, it's an embarrassment for Israel, sorry. And they're calling for arrest. This is strange for them to report this in NBC News because you know it's bad when they report it there. Because it was so embarrassing. Because what does it show the war is about? It's about stealing land. It's a war of conquest. Why is it backed by America? Because that's American template. That's how you go from sea to shining sea. But if you're dishonest and you don't like to accept truth, you don't really know what the war is about. When you have our man right here in New Jersey saying that says we should have beachfront property in Gaza, you can see the aim. See, but for me, I'd want to bless the people. I prefer for them that are homeless, that are naked, to be able to have somewhere to lay their head. Because the Son of Man came, and did he have somewhere to lay his head? Was Jesus a refugee? Was Jesus being hunted by the Romans? Yes, the Italians were hunting Jesus. Was Jesus end up being killed by the Italians? Yes. Who orders that? The Jewish rabbis. So we can't misunderstand what's happening, and we have to see this. Christ doesn't say if you have done to the richest and the most powerful billionaire. So somebody could say, Lord, but all this financial, why is this important? Because as Ellen G. White says, when the righteous has money, it's bread for the hunger, it's clothing for the naked, it's water for those who are thirsty. When the rich have money, it's to oppress the poor. So we don't join with them. I'm very clear about this. And I don't think it's up for discussion. It's what we see going on in society. The least of these, my brethren, you have done it to me. What we have found, we live in a society that we have to reject as worldly and secular, and they head into hell. And they don't serve no God. And we accept Jesus Christ, and we come out of the world and be not partakers of their sins, and that we receive not of their plagues, because they oppress the poor. Proverbs 22 verse 9 says, he that hath a bountiful eye shall be blessed, for he giveth of his bread to the what? To the poor. So money in our hands is blessing for others. Money in our hands is that we can do what we do here, and we put a lot in what we do here. We could have spent our money other places, but we tend to invest our money in the gospel, doing all kind of stuff, burning through thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of dollars each year to do what we do here. We're making a sacrifice for your blessing. So we could be out there, on the yachts and do, whatever we could do, but we choose not to do that. Because we believe that said the poor need the gospel. That's what Paul says. The poor had the gospel preached to them. And that's what Paul did, and that's what we follow. That's why we follow Jesus, and that's what we do. We put our money where the gospel is. Tomorrow you can come and sing for us. Put our money where the gospel is. Where the gospel is. It's the first time I've ever heard that one. Thanks. God bless you all.
Please take your hymnals in hand and turn to hymn number 639. Hymn number 639. A diligent and grateful heart prompts me to sing thy praise. Thy love and mercies from the start have blessed me all my days. I thank thee for the means to serve with talents and with tithes, for sharing brings the utmost joy when lifting other lives. My thanks I give for stewardship to minister through deeds, to serve and share with patient care thy people in their need. O Lord, I dedicate my all in this response to thee. Help me to magnify this call in deep humility.
Thank you so much for joining us here at Covenant Advent Church, preparing you for life and eternity Bible study. At this time, as we close, I would like to invite you to pray with us. Dear Heavenly Father, we're grateful and thankful, dear Lord, again for showing us a better way to live. We thank you, dear Heavenly Father, for giving us blessings and abundance. You give us so much, so many blessings, and the great and the small, and all the blessings are special. We pray, dear Heavenly Father, that we do not take these blessings for granted. So many squander their earnings and things that are not proper, things that are just not going to bless us in any way. We as Christians, we have to be careful not to live as the people in the world. The things that they're entertained with and the things that they do with their money, it's not a blessing for the most part for others or themselves. But we, the Heavenly Father, whatever resources we have come from you. So we have to be smart stewards, and we have to think in a different way. Your word helps us to, for us to be transformed in order for us to think differently. Our will has to be aligned with your will, and then we'll be able to live better. We thank you, dear Heavenly Father, for the blessings. We're grateful, dear Lord, for your word. We pray at this time that those watching may also live better because of their obedience to your word. And at this time, as we close, dear Lord, let us think of the blessings of this past week and think of the potential we have during this week. We pray for traveling mercies. We're grateful, dear Lord, for bringing us here. And as always, we pray for you to bring us back to worship you in this place. In Christ I pray. Amen. Thank you again for joining us here at Covenant Adventist Church, preparing you for life and eternity. Join us next week as we continue to study the Sabbath school lesson. The theme is the study of the book of Mark. We're up to lesson 8, Teaching Disciples, part 2. And join us again in the afternoon as we continue to study this topic of finance. Thank you again. We'll see you next week.